Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Z. We're back again for another reaction. We are reacting to the Whatever podcast. Andrew is debating a feminist, of which I do not know her name. Let's get right into it.
America is not a church, and that is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest strengths of America. The American experiment was built on a bold idea. Faith must be freely chosen. Conscience must be protected. Political power must be limited. The founders, men of inquiry, men of science, men who built universities and ran experiments, drafted a constitution that banned religious tests for office. That was not hostility to Christianity. That was confidence in its integrity. Because when church and state merge, bias corrupts the state. But more importantly, to me, power corrupts the church. Separation does not weaken the church, it protects it. America's ethos is simple. We do what works. And how do we know what works? Science. We test, we measure, we build, we refine. If it fails, we discard it. If it succeeds, we scale it. That instinct, that relentless pursuit of truth through evidence is not anti-Christian. It is a reflection of intellectual humility. America is industry. America is laboratories and shipyards and production lines that outwork empires. America is the Manhattan Project, physicists racing equations against tyranny and winning. America is a P-51 Mustang, not sacred tradition, but engineering superiority screaming across the sky. That spirit defeated fascism. It destroyed communism. It mapped the atom. It put satellites in orbit. It built the medical systems, infrastructure, and technology that shape the modern world. My America fears no truth. It preserves through discovery. It does not shrink from paleontology, geology, or evolutionary biology. Truth is not an enemy of faith. If God is sovereign, then no discovery threatens him. Evolution and belief have coexisted for generations. Scientific advancement need not displace theological conviction. America did not fight a revolution to resurrect sacred hierarchy. It did not cast off empire to create another throne draped in religious conformity. It created a republic confident enough to protect the liberty of conscience for all people. Religious principles need no safeguarding anyway. Christianity survived the Roman Empire. It persisted despite Nero trying to kill them. It grew to prominence and converted the known word not by sword, but by the quill. I wish my Christian brothers and sisters today still had the same confidence in the gospel that they had then. My America is equal protection under the law, freedom of speech, limits on state power. Those are not principles foreign to Christianity. They echo the belief that every person bears dignity, that coercion cannot produce genuine faith, and that moral transformation begins in the heart, not in legislation. Christianity has flourished for many of the same reasons that America has. They have thrived without subjugation, and they have spread without war. And when they did either of these two things, people came to hate it. The American dream and the holy word persuade because people believe their truth, not because it is enforced. America moves forward, America builds, America competes, America leads, not by fusing church and state, but by unleashing human ingenuity without demanding theological uniformity first. America is doing what works, and that is why it leads the world.
Are you just taking the water break, or do you... Done? Okay, perfect. Andrew, go ahead with your opening statement.
I'm way too hungover for this shit, but I got a beer, so that'll help me hear the dog a little bit.
As long as you got a beer,
so
everything's better,
blunt,
right?
Some of the reasons that I don't particularly enjoy debating with Eric.
I don't know about y'all, but I can't be drinking during the day like that. I get a headache.
Because
crash
there's
out.
a specific style she has, which is called the pop quiz style. When Kyla gets in trouble around arguments and worldview, she drops a pop quiz. Do you know what X is? X usually being a random obscure fact, which has little to nothing to do with the conversation. And your inability to answer it's met with smug delight and upspeak as she explains some random fact. The reason I bring this up is because I want the audience to be aware that I really just hate the pop quiz debates. It's an old Twitch take, and it's just, to me, it's cringe. It's not the Socratic method. It's just...
Hey, what's up, AP? Welcome, brother.
Introduce a pop quiz about some factoid that is completely irrelevant to the debate. But anyway, when leftists say anything is un-American, I'm forced to laugh about it. Progressives and liberals like Erudite here only have one single value structure ultimately, and it's loyalty to an amoral liberal system. To progressive liberals, And I kid you not.
Oh, I guess it's erudite. I didn't realize that was the same chick we were reacting to last time.
Let's give an example. The example of Bob. Bob can go buy a brand new deluxe PC for his 18-year-old daughter, put a camera on top of it, and manage her career as a porn star on OnlyFans, while he's upstairs with her former teachers fapping to it on his Oculus porn helmet, and there isn't a fucking thing anybody can do about it, because Bob pays taxes. Bobby gets up every stinking day, and he goes to work, and he rolls up his sleeves, and he gets the job done. And by God, if Bob wants to fap to daughter porn with her former teachers, who the fuck are you to tell him he can't?
Dude, his arguments are crazy.
His wife out to
How
his
you gonna
friends
argue
for
with
an
that?
all-night blitzed-up, legal drug-fueled gangbang, and then finish it off by snorting prescription painkillers so he doesn't come too early, then by God, that's his right as an American and a patriot. Who the fuck are you, sick fascist, to judge Bob? He ain't breaking any laws. He pays his taxes, and he's following the system, baby. And that's what matters. The liberal process of amoral systems rather than immoral. Everything's permitted. If the global hegemon of the world needs to put machine guns to the back of little Africans' heads so they can dig out the special Sudanese cell phone crystals, then so fucking be it. Bob needs his perfect reception for his satellite-driven cell phone in order to get the perfect nude image of his wife being split down the middle like a piece of meat in an all-white bread sandwich. And who the fuck are you to tell Bob shit? Nobody. That's who. Just a judgmental little fascist trying to legislate morality in an amoral system which is oriented around a nonsense of...
So for those who don't know, man, that's pretty much like the core of Andrew's position is that if you don't have your morality grounded in some type of like fundamental a priori truth, for example, in his position, he's arguing that it's God, right? Then basically you have no moral standing on which to ground anything. And like initially that seems like, I don't know if you're, how y'all feel about that, but if you're a secular person who didn't grow up religious, that sounds kind of goofy, right? But the more you think about it, you really think deeply about it, you start to realize, well, if you don't ground it in something like that, what do you ground it in? Do you just say, oh, well, this society agreed on this? It's like, okay, well, if it's consensus, like we all know we've had some super fucked up consensuses. So where does that logically lead us? You know what I'm saying? So that's basically his point. And he's pretty, I bet you he's going to lean on that because that's pretty much what he does. And it's a strong point. It's hard to argue with that.
A smorgasbord of moral buffets, which boils down to a choose-your-own degenerate adventure. Nothing short of that is un-American. Here's a bunch of un-American stuff, depending on when you were alive. Universal suffrage, pretty fucking un-American. Abolishing slavery was pretty fucking un-American. Homosexuality was definitely un-American. Age of consent laws were un-American. Incest laws were un-American. Income taxes were un-American. Sex outside of wedlock was un-American. Refusal to...
Incest laws were un-American? That's not a W for America.
Duel when being called out was un-American. Not being white was un-American. Co-ed schools were un-American. Black people in white schools, so un-American, we needed the military involved. The list goes on and on. But according to erudite, Christian nationalism was un-American because America basically begins in the early 20th century based on Lincoln models of federalism. That's what's American. Part of that, of course, should be not listening to a person who grew up under a king in a constitutional monarchy like she did. Gross. Bunch of fascist bootlickers over in Maple Land. That's pretty fucking un-American too. Christian nationalism is as compatible with Americanism as the liberal order of amoral systems allows, which means perfectly compatible because there isn't any ought to tell it no. The entire proposition from the liberal angle itself is self-refuting. It just goes like this. If people vote for Christian nationalists, what are they doing which is un-American? The answer? Fucking nothing. If they vote in a KKK, Nazi fascist, Hugo Boss, SS uniform wearing lunatic who packs the court, persecutes all non-whites, all within the whim and the confines of the amoral system, then what's un-American about that? And the answer? Fucking nothing. Because the progressive liberal system is built on nothing. Just vague appeals to my rights and my freedoms.
My rights.
And my own system, which allows you to get rid of the system. It's absurd and self-refuting. That's my opening.
Cool. So I guess...
I mean, he's got a point. You know, it's the classic, like, democracy versus republic thing, right? It's like, if mob rule wins, well, what if mob rule decides that mob rule doesn't win anymore? Then it undoes its own system. Doesn't really make sense, you know? He's got a point. He's got a point.
Maybe we should clarify Christian nationalism, because I feel like that's going to be a bit of the crux of the conversation. So how do you want to define it?
To the definition of Christian nationalism would just be the proposition that Christians utilize influence and authority to stay in the moral majority, and that they adopt systems towards Christian ethics.
When you say moral majority, what does that mean to you?
It means that most laws and social systems confined around Christian ethics.
Okay. So you would like to basically see a change of current statecraft to include more Christian policies?
All Christian policies.
Can I ask to what extent? Like, does this...
To as much of an extent as liberalism allows, which is all extents.
Okay, so when you advocate for Christian nationalism, though, I'm sure you and I would probably agree, probably if, say, the moral majority becomes Christian, particularly in the way that maybe you're advocating for, we would probably move in the direction of reducing constitutional policy and increasing Christian policy specifically, probably all the way up to including theocracy.
No, they're not incompatible.
So you don't think that
constitutional policies, so under liberalism, this is a great thing about liberalism. So do you remember, like, you had this conversation with a guy the other day? I don't know how long ago it was, but he was like a fan of mine. He called in. It was about Christian nationalism. I think you got the clip on your channel. There was a point there where I started laughing because he said, basically what I did, he was like, my proposal is that I want all the systems and this and that to kind of reflect the image of my preferences. And you were like, fuck that. You're not allowed to bastardize my religion by...
Oh, real quick, AP says, what's going on in the top right corner? Bro, that's a video that we reacted to last night. It's a true crime video from my other channel. If you just type in Z33 and go look at our lives, me and Danny reacted to that shit last night. That's what that is. So, yeah, man, we're feeding the channels, man.
Implementing policies against, what my preferences are. And I thought, that's like the most American.
Oh, and then he said, reminds me of the movie Time Changer. I think there's a full version on YouTube. Super cool movie considering it was made in 2002. Touches on morality without God. I'll have to check that shit out.
Thing I can think of.
Yeah, so well, baby.
Most American
we got
thing
that
I can
soul.
think
You
of
can't
is
tell. Let's go.
A Canadian immigrant is like, you know what? This is my country now. And you're not going to fucking bastardize it with whatever your shit is.
Yeah, it's hooked up. The one in the corner is hooked up to my HDMI, so I'm playing it on the Xbox right now. Normally I have like a game coming through. I just didn't feel like putting Mario Kart on right now. So anyways, what do you think? You think that's cool? Having the little extra video in the corner, or is it weird?
Because I don't
made
want
you comment, so I guess it worked, right?
Guy's like, I don't give a shit what you want. We're going to do it anyway. And then it goes vice versa. And it's like, that is liberalism. Ultimately, if we want to get rid of alcohol via an amendment, we can. If we want to bring it back via an amendment, we can and have. If we want to get rid of guns, we can and have. We want to bring them back, we can and have. It's like everything is permitted.
So by your logic then, Christian nationalists not only are trying to win the culture, they're trying to win the state, to impose Christian policy on the state.
Well, they're
through Congress.
They're
appreciate
liberalism on the state, actually.
You good, man.
Well,
you're good
in this
people.
case,
because
I don't want to slip between words.
I'm not going to equivocate. If Christian
trying to learn how to make more content,
every single constitutional amendment within the confines of liberalism to reflect only Christian policy, by your metric, that's liberalism.
So the issue is that I'm not like a democratic absolutist, right? I don't believe in democracy in the state.
You said it's definitely different than the whatever podcast law, good to be diverse. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure, man. Gonna try to react to a whole bunch of stuff. For whatever reason, this has been my algorithm a lot lately, but we're gonna do a bunch of other shit too, for sure.
Believe in like some level of limited democracy. In fact, even now we have like electoral democracy. We have elected representatives. We don't have direct popular vote.
Appreciate you for showing love to the channel, man. You know that shit helps get the algo going. You know what I'm saying?
It's a better democratic system than, for example, pure absolute democracy, like popular vote. So there's always limits on democracy, right? So when you say liberalism, I think the issue is like liberalism to you just it seems like what it means to you is we can vote for stuff.
No.
Is that what it means? What does it mean to you?
It's
Hell yeah, good shit, bro. I'm telling you, bro. I'm trying to pump the algorithm, man. The content machine is engaged, bro.
It's what you outlined.
No
in
going
your
back now,
opening.
right?
Liberalism is just a sequence of systems. It's
Yeah, there's definitely, bro, shorts. In my experience, dude, I get like 10 times as many views on shorts than on any other format. Like if I do a live stream, especially like on the other channels, on the studio channel, we get a decent amount, but on this one, it's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 views the whole stream, maybe 10 the whole stream for an hour. You know what I mean? But on shorts, it's like instantly 1,000, like first day. It's crazy. So they're definitely, I think it's just a matter of people are scrolling more than they're watching long form. So it's like the shorts are just, you get a lot more bang for the buck. But my whole logic is you post a bunch of shorts and long form so that they feed each other. That's my logic. We'll see how it goes, but yeah,
science,
definitely
man,
shorts are
and
trending
it's
for
building
sure.
shit,
For
it's
sure, for
industry,
sure.
and it's all of
I
these
feel like they
isms.
even were trending a lot more low key. I'm like late to the game, but better late than never, I guess.
which
Well,
really are just confined.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
I want
you
a
100%
system.
got me, bro.
So liberalism is an amoral.
My thing too is like I'm already watching, like right now I'm just working, bro. So it's like might as well live stream, and like since I got this video on in the background anyways, and I'm like my brain's making commentary to it anyways, might as well just like react to it while I'm working. So it's just kind of weird being on camera all the time, but you got to get used to that shit, right? Hell yeah. All in,
System.
baby.
Do you think science is liberalism?
No, but I think that liberals adopt science as part of their system.
Well, yeah, they allow it. Do you think capitalism is liberalism?
I think they adopt capitalism as part of their system.
Could they adopt other things?
Sure.
Okay, so then what's liberalism?
Liberalism is an adaptation of an amoral system.
What is this? Sorry, at a statecraft level, what does this mean?
That you have a system which is an amoral system.
Why is the amoral piece essential to the
Because
liberal piece?
that's why you prefer secularism. You want a system which is amoral. So it's based on individualism. It's based on
Is individualism amoral?
yeah. Well, from the liberal view, it is yeah.
How is individualism amoral?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because there's no ought. There's no ought under a liberal system for you to do anything.
Sure, there is. There's
What's-
oftentimes, right? Like a liberal
what?
system doesn't impose any certain moral. Well, the most common consensual
Wait,
norm.
what did you say? A liberal system doesn't impose any certain morals.
That doesn't make it. Like, so when you say
That means
amoral,
amoral.
oh, so like they're agnostic.
No, they're amoral. It's worse than agnostic.
How is that?
Because
how are these?
under-
sorry, what's the
under-
difference between amoral and agnostic on morality?
Yeah, so you can be agnostic about something which is moral or immoral, right? That's true. But that doesn't mean you're amoral. But what you're looking for is a system which is amoral. So you're saying, like, look, we're not going to make any moral prescriptions because that's not what the function of the state is.
So do you think that what the founding fathers did was amoral? Like it's not something to respect. It's not something valuable. What do you think about the founding fathers?
What does that have to do with anything?
The founding fathers created the American world. You're saying it seems like you're saying America is liberalism, and this liberalism is weak. Or do you think America is something
It became
else?
liberalism when you destroyed the republic with universal suffrage in the 14th Amendment.
The republic was just the language utilized to talk about a specific type of democracy, right?
No, it had a foundationalism. You're talking about 39 out of 50 signers, only 3 of them were deists. And foundationally, the states, under
Is
the
that true? That seems low.
10th Amendment, were allowed to adopt their own religions and did. It was only until we got to the 14th Amendment, way later, that this was no longer the case.
No.
And in your opening, you got that wrong.
The Establishment and Free Exercise Clause specifically said Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion prohibiting the free
At
exercise
the
thereof.
federal level, that's true.
The federal level implied to the states.
No, that happened later under the 14th Amendment.
No,
In fact,
under the Constitution.
I'll show you. Brian, pull up the 14th Amendment stops states from adopting religion. I'll show you so that you understand how the process worked.
So do you think that the founding fathers established a religion for the
No,
nation?
they established the 10th Amendment, which says that all rights which are not given to the federal government are given to the prospective states. Because the First Amendment covered that federally, this was part of a compromise. That compromise happened because of the Articles of Confederation. So the Articles of Confederation initially were the libertarian wet dream, but they didn't work because states couldn't have uniform commerce or uniform dollars or a uniform military. So they adopted a form of federalism and compromised. The compromise was the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment stated that actually states could have their own religions, and they did. Almost all the states had their own religion post-constitutional ratification.
By
most
own
people
religion,
don't know that.
By own religion,
I didn't know that.
Do you just mean
He brought that up in another one, and I was like, what? But yeah, I guess they did. Because it's that you can't federally mandate one religion, but you can have a state religion.
the
Interesting.
test clause?
No. They had state religions.
The test clause. You had to be
No,
to
not
be
a
in
test
power.
clause. They had actual state religions. Inside each independent state, they had their own religions, minus, I think, 2 or 3.
So why did the federal United States not have a religion? Why did it allow the states to make those choices?
Because of the 10th Amendment.
What was the principle? What were the founding fathers trying to do? What do you think the
They
founding
were
fathers cared
trying
about?
to separate the power of federalists between anti-federalists and federalists.
Yep.
So they compromised on 2 major amendments. The Second Amendment, which initially was way looser in language, and then they compromised on the 10th Amendment as well, because states wanted to have their own militias, they wanted to have their own militaries, they wanted to have their own currencies. And Congress was like, look.
Yeah, I guess her name's Erudite AP. I think. I'm pretty sure it's the same chick over here. But yeah, she's she's not making the best of points. Not the Maxwellian history either, he says. I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean Maxwellian?
We need to have the power to coin money. If you allow us to have those 2 powers, then all the other prospective powers will give to the states, which they did. That included religion.
So if the founding fathers intended for it to be a Christian nation, to have some level of...
They intended for each state to be able to govern as they saw fit in order to implement religions if they chose to.
To the exclusion at a federal level specifically of any religion, right?
But that's not in what's in contest here.
That is in what's contest,
Why?
right? If we're talking about America, we're talking about the nation. We're
Yeah,
talking
can the
about the
First
founding
Amendment-
fathers,
can-
the minds behind the founding.
The founding fathers put in amendment processes for us to amend things, including the
Sure.
First Amendment, right?
Sure, yeah, but why, if they wanted to blend church and state, why wouldn't they write that in?
They did blend church and state
They did
because
not. They
under
have-
the 10th Amendment, they allowed states to adopt state religions. It was only when the Supreme Court looked at the 14th Amendment way later in our history that they decided, and by the way, that amendment had nothing to even do with this. That was about citizenship.
State religions isn't the same thing as America having a federal religion. We realize this, right?
Who
Oh, God, you said it's a joke mostly, but the history our textbook teach us. Yeah, for sure. You mean like Columbus? I got you, bro.
ever
Don't get me
postulated
started.
that we needed to have
Don't
a
even get me
federalized religion.
started.
Well, I'm talking about separation of church and state.
Yeah, but
for America.
If states can have their own religion inside the state,
At this point, I'm pretty convinced like 90% of that shit is completely bullshit, but
and it
you know
becomes
what's
a
up.
state religion, does that, in your opinion, violate that separation of church and
If
state?
there's a test clause, yeah, it probably potentially would violate that. So if the state imposes a test clause for federal power, that would be an issue. And
Do
in
you
fact,
know when the last
it was super common at the time that most states had clauses. In fact, the founding fathers were so intense about ensuring separation of power that despite most colonies at the time having a test clause for holding power
Yeah.
of being religious,
Yeah.
they explicitly barred it in, what was it, Article 6.
Oh, yeah? Then
Yeah.
how come in Maryland you had to declare until 1960-something, I believe, that you believed in God in order to hold office?
Because in Maryland, they made that decision. But at a federal level, well, we're not talking about Maryland. We're talking about America.
Yeah, America...
Is Maryland America?
America is a coalition of states which have federalized. That's
Sure.
what's going on.
But don't you think that the Constitution of America maybe matters when we're talking about the ethos of America?
Sure.
Okay, so
Do
when
you
the
mean that
founding
amendable?
fathers...
You mean that completely amendable thing?
Well, completely amendable makes it sound way looser than it is. Amending and adding amendments
It is way
incredibly
looser.
difficult.
Look, what's un-American about amending the First Amendment?
Nothing.
Okay. So then, inside of your worldview, it's completely constitutional to amend the First Amendment
Well,
to get
it's con-
rid.
I shouldn't have- I shouldn't have said it-
Hang on. To get rid of the Establishment Clause, that would be totally appropriate
No,
under your
I think that
worldview.
would be a violation of the American ethos. I think it's bad and, well,
How?
here.
How?
Because America's built on these things. I think that the founding fathers...
You don't believe America? Okay. Does America
Hold on.
have?
Do I get to finish my thoughts, or are you going to interrupt
ahead,
me?
go ahead.
Okay, right. I think what's really important here is that, like, the founding fathers, I think, are essential to understanding the ethos of America. I don't think they're the
This one's tough for me, man, because I'm a big free speech guy. But yeah, he's hard to argue with, man. It's hard to argue with, man.
only piece. But if we want to look at like a litany of America over time, what we have, for example, is the founding fathers, despite the nation being dominantly Christian, despite the states having test religious clauses, the founding fathers looking at that going, no, we need a separation of church and state.
That's
it's
not what
essential.
happened.
That is
No.
absolutely what happened.
Not only
If
is
you-
it not what happened, but within the framework that you're
No.
talking about, you just said it's not un-American to amend.
How did it not happen?
Hang on. You just said it's not in any way un-American to amend the First Amendment. The First Amendment is
I should have clarified that, because when we say American, I'm meaning the ethos. What I should have said is it's not anti-constitutional. The Constitution would allow for it.
Okay, then let's follow that line of logic and see if that's true. Does American have any sort of like ethnic ethos?
Yeah.
What is it?
Dominantly white culture, hegemonically.
So that's part of the American ethos?
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah, significantly, right? Like white
Should it stay that
Protestant-
way?
I like it, yeah.
So America should stay a white Protestant nation?
But that's not the central piece of the ethos. You said, does it have a cultural ethos? And I said,
I'm asking
white is one of them.
should it stay white?
No, I don't care about the white
Then that's
piece.
not part of American ethos.
How is that the case? Absolutely something that can be a part of the ethos and also change. Because the ethos here that's central isn't the whiteness that I was pointing to.
It's what?
Some of the cultural values that come in. For example, Protestant work ethic, right? Taking value in the product that you make as
And
a
if
company.
America no longer had any of that and became completely atheistic, but still followed these constitutional amendments, that's still plenty American, right?
As long as I hold to central ethos of what I think the American dream and
Which
vision
is- that's
which
why
we
I'm asking
outlined,
you
for example,
if it's-
with the founding fathers at the Declaration of Independence.
Well, then if it's not whiteness and it's not anything,
whiteness.
and it's not anything cultural,
Bobby donated
It is cultural.
$69.
Oh my God.
It means
Sorry.
that according to
No idea what happened there. I
Yeah.
apologize.
It's okay. No
if
worries.
it's not, so here's what I'm asking: if it's not ethnic, and
What do
it's-
you think
and-
American ethos
and-
I gotta Google ethos. What does ethos mean? Am I stupid for that? Tell me, gang. Ethos. Guiding beliefs, character, or spirit that defines a person, group, or culture, often representing their fundamental values. Okay, so the fundamental values. I feel like punk ethos is definitely a major thing in American culture, for better, for worse. Like I feel like the vaccine is a pretty good example. Oh, shouldn't use that word. Canceled from YouTube now. But you know, the whole idea of like, it's not the best example because obviously there was controversy around the effectiveness and yada, 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 right? But let's say smoking for an example, right? Nobody wants to ban smoking. We all know it's bad for us. McDonald's, whatever it is. It's like, you know, you could tell us right to our face, I have 100% proof this is bad for you. And it's like, well, yeah, I still want my right to be able to do it though. We have like a fuck you mentality about it. It's like, you can't tell me I can't do meth. Like, which to his point isn't always the best decision. So it's interesting.
and it's
Do you
not.
have any
I kind of like the punk rock shit though. I feel like with America, you know, the melting pot, the cultural punk rock shit, all that, you get a lot of benefits that come with that, like the culture. I mean, mainly the culture. But as we're looking at things today, man, I do see the pros and cons. Like maybe it's not such a good thing. I don't know, man. I'm shifting. I'm
the American
shifting,
and
gang.
it's not cultural.
I
and
said
it's not.
it is cultural.
It's cultural.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the cultural things? What is American culture?
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Because, like, I already know where he's going with this, right? Because if it's cultural, then it's transient, right? Because if it's cultural, it can shift. So he's just going to dunk on her with that. Watch.
Doing things that work, ingenuity, discovery.
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Wait, what do you think American
and
ethos is?
what? Hang on. What was the other thing you said?
I think ingenuity.
Ingenuity.
Those are some of them.
So as long as
Do you
none
reject these as part of the American
so,
ethos?
yeah, I do. So as long as none of these,
I do.
life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness, or ingenuity is violated, then it's in the spirit of America.
Potentially, we would have to look at it in a relativistic, right? Like these ethos-like things, we have to understand like what we're talking about. You'd have to give me an
That's
example.
what I'm asking you about. Is what we're talking about. So if
Yeah.
any of these
so what
things,
do you think is American?
I think that what's core at the central kind of product of
He's gonna say
Americanism
Christianity.
is this idea of systemic liberalism. The system itself
What is
is what
systemic
American.
liberalism mean?
What's that?
What is systemic liberalism?
Yeah, so it's just the idea that like there's a secular separation, there's systems in place within the constitutional confines, there's things which we're appealing to in law.
Do
I
you
don't
like
think that
America?
I don't think that liberalism and modernity is doing anything other than looking at those systems. I think that originally our founders wanted to have something which was much more akin to ethno-nationalism, for sure. I think that they wanted to have something that was much more akin to nobody voting in universal suffrage at all, because they didn't give anybody the right to vote.
Why?
So I don't think that those things were foundational to the American experience, because the founders didn't allow it.
Why didn't they?
Because they didn't want people to come over here who weren't Western English, basically.
That's not why.
Yeah, it is why.
No, you can read it in Federalist Number 2. Like the argument for suffrage is very clear from Hamilton.
Okay, wait. On
suffrage.
Have you read the Anti-Federalist Papers?
No.
Do you realize there's Federalist Papers, there's the Anti-Federalist Papers?
Yes.
These were compromises which were made from the original article.
I'm not gonna lie, I remember the Federalist Papers from school, but I don't really remember like the details of that shit. I remember we had to study that, but
Of Confederation.
What did suffrage mean to
originally
the
the 39, I believe it's 39 out of 50 delegates who signed the Constitution. Only 3 were deists. Most of them were Protestants, loyalist Protestants, by the way. And on top of all of that, most of them wanted only white states and made it very clear they only wanted white states. They put that into the very ethos of what they considered Americana. Do I think that modern liberalism is looking at...
Homie can't get in the chat, but Marlo says, I think he meant 39 out of 50 signers were Christian, 3 were deists, non-Christian per se. I'll do some real-time fact-checking. Meta AI, what were the processes, religions of the signers of Declaration of Independence? I'm not totally sure what that means. I feel like there was an of in there I missed. The signers of the Declaration of Independence represented a diverse... By the way, appreciate you. This is a gangster. Appreciate the input, bro. Declaration of Independence represented a diverse range of religious beliefs reflecting the colony's rich spiritual landscape. Here's a breakdown. Christians. 54 out of 56 signers were Christians with various denominations represented. Presbyterians, John Witherspoon, Richard Stockton, and William Floyd. Congregationalists, Samuel Adams, Josiah Bartlett, and Oliver Wolcott. Anglican/Episcopalian, George Wythe, blah, blah, blah. Quakers, Roman Catholic, Deists, Unitarians, some notable signers and their affiliations, blah, 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 blah. The Declaration's language reflects this diversity, appealing to nature's God and the supreme judge of the world without explicitly mentioning Christianity. Kind of reminds me of Freemasonry, how it's like, you know, they all agree in like one God, but it's not the same one God type thing. And then he says he means Ghislaine Maxwell's father wrote out history books. Sorry, can't get in the super chat right now. Yeah, no worries, bro. Appreciate that. I'll check in there once in a while. Hell yeah.
No. Cultural environmentalism.
Oh, my bad. Let me put the thing back on.
Systems. That's it. That's all you have is a system. Liberalism
Still
is a
getting used to the
system
hotkeys.
of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and ingenuity. Whatever the fuck that means. Doesn't even mean anything.
Of course.
It's just what?
What do you mean?
What is life, liberty, and my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness?
It is pretty
Like
vague. I'm not gonna lie. That shit is pretty vague. It is pretty vague. It's intentionally vague, right? Because it's supposed to be interpreted as like your personal interpretation, right? But it's very vague. Tough for legal
completely
stuff.
amend the First Amendment and still do all of those things.
I think the issue is that most of the country would oppose you amending the First Amendment
So?
because the First Amendment is foundational to what makes America great.
So what? So what if most of the country opposes it? It's built into liberalism. If all it is
what
opposition.
matters if the whole country opposes it is because like America is this consensual emergence of a bunch of people that believe in something.
And what if we decide that we don't believe in the First Amendment anymore and amend it? What's un-American
Do you
about
not
that?
believe in the First Amendment anymore?
That has nothing to do with the argument. What is
Sure it does.
un-American about amending the First Amendment?
Well, again, the American is this ethos. It would be technically constitutional, but I would argue that it would be a bad constitutional move, and I think it would violate the Founding Fathers. And I think the Founding Fathers were onto something when they made that first separation of free speech and separation of church and state.
Should we adhere to everything the founders said or no?
No, not
Well,
necessarily.
then who cares if we violate it?
There's
Who
principles.
cares?
What do you mean, who cares?
Yeah, if you're like, look, if you violate the things that the founders wanted, that's not un-American. But this is un-American because it might violate what the founders wanted. You're in contradictions. P
These
and
are
not
not
P.
contradictions. Like pluralism allows for competing values, right? Obviously, right? And so what you're kind of doing right now is you're sitting here and you're being like, well, there's two children. They're your children on one side and your husband's on the other side.
Yeah.
Who are you picking? And let's say I pick the two children.
Yeah.
You're going, why do you hate your husband? And I'm saying, that's not what's happening here
I don't even
at
know
all.
that. First of all, that's not the analogy. The analogy would actually be this. You have your husband and your children on both sides. You pick both. This other guy has his husband and children, and he doesn't pick both.
That's not how pluralism and monism work.
Wait a second. As long as you're saying that both of these sets are both moral behaviors because you have an amoral system, meaning you wouldn't restrict either of these things.
That's not necessary. We absolutely restrict people's behaviors, and we often restrict people's behaviors for the benefit of the state, right? Laws exist.
And who makes them?
The people that we elect. Congress.
I see. So if we elect people who vote in different laws, how's that un-American?
So it would be against the American ethos if a whole bunch of Christian nationalists, for example, convinced people that we should actually reduce things like liberty. I think that we would be moving away from
You
the
wouldn't be
American
reducing
ethos.
liberty.
Absolutely.
It would just be a different kind
if
of
you
liberty.
start imposing church into state, for example,
different
and the
kind of
only
liberty?
religion that you can practice is
Yeah.
Christianity,
Yeah.
that would be violating liberty.
How, if we amend the process, how?
Even if you amend the process, so you can amend the process to make us a less free nation. But what I
yeah.
would say is that would be wrong. That would be un-American. Yes.
How?
Because America is built on life and liberty.
America is built on the fact that you can amend America.
No, America is built on
Why do we have an amendment process then?
Why wouldn't TJ, when he's writing the Declaration of Independence, why wouldn't he, for example, say, America is just what we vote for? It's just like consensus stuff, man. It's just like loosey-goosey. He says specifically an ethos that drives the dream, right? And you're saying, well, this ethos, this dream, it's just silly. It's nothing. I mean, it's just not nothing, right? It makes me go,
It's foundationally
do you hate America?
On liberalism, on the liberal view, right?
So you think America's
It's
nothing?
built-
Let each other finish, please.
It's not built on any sort of ethnicity. It's not built on any sort of cultural union.
Well, I did say culture.
Well, but you just said life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Is that not, cannot not be cultural values?
Yeah, no.
Why not? What's
Because
cultural
what?
value?
What does it mean?
What's an example of a cultural
what the
value?
fuck does it mean? Let's
What's
start
an
with that.
example of a cultural value, if not something like life and
A
liberty?
unison of cultural values are usually foundation to ethical systems.
No, they're not. So
Like what?
what's a cultural value that you would say that's a cultural value?
I just
Give me an
told
example
you
of one.
I would utilize for culture some kind of glue. That would be a unison. Otherwise, it's not cultural.
Okay, what's a Scottish cultural value? Irish. Sorry, you're Irish. That's an Irish cultural value.
Yeah, so I think that Irish cultural values would again revolve around foundationalism,
Like
religious
what?
ethical systems.
Like what?
Well, for Ireland, I think what they're Protestant Catholic.
So the cultural value is of being Irish is being Catholic.
I think that there's a union between the people group and the ethical foundations.
So
Yes.
how are Irish people different than British people who are also on the back of Anglican or Catholic?
Well, because they're not, right? So England has a completely different set of people groups,
That was a gangster question, and that was a gangster answer. Well, they're not.
which come from Britannia.
That's his whole point, I guess, right? Because is it epistemology? Am I getting that right? He's like grounding the entire foundation in that logic. And he's like, well, yeah, because they're rooted in the same core epistemology of how they know what they know. I think that's what it is. The knowledge of how
came
you know
in,
what you know.
settled all of England. When the church came in and then they separate into Anglican, they have now a completely different set of value structures than other places do, including
Would you
in
call
Western
it
Europe.
Anglican?
What?
The British cultural value? So the
Well, I
only thing
would
that
say-
makes British and Irish people different is one's
No,
Catholic
I
and
said
one's
different people
Protestant?
group. Steelman my
What's the cultural value for
Steelman,
Irish people?
Steelman my position real quick.
I'm asking you actually to steelman mine because you're insisting that when I list these ethos,
How
it's
can I
nothing and
steelman your
empty.
position when you're asking me questions?
I'm asking you questions because you seem to be unsatisfied with the answers that I
Yeah.
have supplied.
People
because
group?
you're not granting me. Just
People
wait, just
group
wait,
plus
just wait.
ethical
if You're
system.
if you're gonna get us on interrupting, it has to be mutual. Okay.
Yeah.
So I gave you an example of a couple of cultural ethos, and you said what?
He always does that when he's like just patiently being respectful and listening, but you can just tell he doesn't give a fuck at all. Like, he's just politely letting you finish.
This is nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, these
and so
are-
then I said,
Wait, hold on.
so then I said, can you give me an example of, let's say, Irish cultural
Okay,
ethos?
sure.
Hold on. And you said Catholic. And I said, what makes them different then from just another group of people that are also Catholic?
They have
There's-
different set values.
Like what?
Like, for instance, they have different religious foundationalism. They have different values in their society that
What
they
is
honor.
an Irish cultural value? Give me one.
Not life, not liberty, not pursuit of happiness. How am I wrong?
I don't know. I'm not Irish.
Well, I don't know.
So
If it's
Irish just values
if
is
it's
just being
isms,
Catholic?
if it's just isms of like a cultural value is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, then it's like, okay, then cultural values are also just not life, not liberty, and not pursuit of happiness then? Does that make any sense to you?
That's not what anyone's saying. I'm literally
It is
just,
what you're saying.
It's not.
Let each other finish, please.
I'm just asking you for a single example of an Irish
Yeah,
cultural
when you're
value,
talking-
and you're just saying,
let each other finish,
and you're just
please.
saying Catholic. So what's an example of an Irish cultural value?
So, do you agree that Catholic would be an example of an Irish cultural value?
I wouldn't say it's unique to Ireland. No.
So, why would it need to be
Well,
unique?
we're talking about
Is
Ireland.
life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness unique to America?
So are you just saying that cultures don't really exist? They're just the religions. Like there's no difference
No,
between
what a culture-
Irish people
Let-
and
let each other finish.
and
Let each other
another
finish,
and
please.
another group that's Catholic as
What a
well,
cul- what-
like Spanish
yeah.
people.
So what a culture is going to be the grouping of the people, the consideration of the value group of those people, and then the foundations of those people.
So what's an example of an Irish cultural ethos?
Catholicism,
So how is that different than Spanish people who are also Catholic?
because they have a different people group,
So what emerges that's different between these two groups?
language, customs, orders,
Yeah, values.
not just values. No,
Of
yeah,
course
they can
not.
have,
Of course not just
they
values.
can have. Actually, they have a lot of shared values.
Sure, of course, yeah.
But again, you have to
Exactly.
take the people group.
That was his
then
point.
you have to take the social orders, and then you have to take the foundationalism in order to create culture. For you're saying life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Now, I gave you concrete examples of cultural values. Can you tell me what this means? What does
Sure.
that mean?
So, if we're talking about the culture of people, I think one of the relevant things for the American culture might be, not excluded to, the founding fathers and what they thought. You know, the founding of the entire nation kind of matters. So, in the Declaration of Independence, for example, Thomas Jefferson outlines life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that is a unique thing, a unique hallmark of being
Jefferson
American.
didn't sign the Constitution.
That doesn't mean that he didn't write the Declaration of Independence. We're talking about the Declaration of
The
Independence.
Declaration of Independence was a propaganda piece built on an axiom which said under God, right?
So, as an American, you just don't care about the Declaration of
I'm saying
Independence.
that when we're talking about
That's a position I've never heard
foundationalism,
before.
The reason I bring
We're
up
not
that
talking about
Jefferson didn't
foundationalism.
sign the Constitution, we are. We're
Nope.
talking about value structures. You're saying that
I'm
life,
trying to
liberty, and
figure out-
pursuit of
Let him finish,
happiness.
let him finish.
You're saying life, liberty, pursuit of happiness is the foundation of Americanism.
Nope.
Then what is?
What is the foundation? It's the foundation of America is the founding fathers. It's the Constitution. It's the Declaration of Independence. It's the
Systems.
entire idea.
It's systems.
Well, it's systems and it's ethos.
You see what I mean? Though that's circular.
It's
you
not-
say life,
how is it
liberty,
circular? What's the
life,
circle?
liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is not the foundation of America, right?
I suppose they can be foundations in that, like they're irreducible. Life, liberty are kind of irreducible
Why couldn't they be reduced?
because it's going to become circular eventually. Like most things will become circular. Say you have a culture that values work ethic.
Yeah.
How do you reduce that? What does that mean?
What, that people work really, really hard?
Yeah, isn't that kind of just like you're just kind of
Yeah,
saying the
that's a
same thing?
heuristic,
So
sure.
it's circular.
I'm not sure that it's circular, but it's a heuristic.
How is saying work ethic is people work hard, not circular?
Well, you could give qualifiers for what hard work is.
What you didn't. You just said
I don't need
hard
to.
work is.
You just asked me how, and I explained
Okay,
it.
so this is
now,
one of the
when
keys
we're
of-
talking about foundationalism, you said life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but then said that that's not a foundation, and then only pointed to systems.
I said
as
it's
the-
no. I didn't say it's not foundation. I said it's
Okay.
not foundationalism. Because when I'm hearing that, and I could be wrong, when I hear foundationalism, I'm assuming that you mean the philosophical framework.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm saying foundational,
So
I just
what's
mean
the philosophical
essential.
framework of the United States, other than a system?
I'm not. So when I'm saying the cultural ethos, I'm not talking about the philosophical framework necessarily.
I'm asking you, what is the philosophical framework of the United States other than a system? What?
Well, it is a system.
Yeah, exactly. So all you're appealing to in your liberal ethical system is just systems. It's an amoral system. That's it.
So statecraft systems. Yes.
Yeah. So here
happening? Sorry, what's
we can make
happening
this
here?
super easy. We can make this super easy then. Is changing the First Amendment immoral?
I think I get what he's saying, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it's like if the government is the ultimate arbiter of morality, I mean, that's just not a good situation. I think we can all agree on that shit. So
No, but I think it would make
No.
the country worse.
So it's an aim.
and if you can, I don't understand how you couldn't. So there's that
system.
also.
I would argue like it's probably
Makes no
immoral
sense.
because probably the people doing it, right? Like which people want to change free speech?
Who cares? What would
Me.
make it? What would make it immoral?
Well, the context and the individual who's doing it might make it immoral or not.
Yeah, but in and of itself, it's not.
It might be, right? Things are relative.
Okay, so in and of itself is not relative anymore because it's just in and of itself.
So I am a moral objectivist and a relativist, right?
What?
I
You're a
believe
P and a not P?
no, I believe in that morals are objective,
You're a P and
but
not
also
P.
that they are relative. This is standard. This is like Aristotle stuff.
What the fuck? What?
Okay, so stealing is wrong. However, the guy whose family is going to die if he doesn't steal, relatively, contextually, might be okay for him to steal in that situation, right?
You're just talking about pluralism.
I'm not. What's the competing values here?
Because under pluralism, what you're saying is that there's many
I'm not so good with all these categories, man. He's so good with the names. He's a
pathways
nerd.
to get to what the spirit of the thing is.
That's not what pluralism
He knows all
is.
those
It is.
words.
Nope.
Okay, what is it?
I don't know what a heuristic is. I gotta
It's
Google that
when
shit.
Google it if you
It's
guys-
multiple irreducible competing goods in moral pluralism.
Multiple what?
Irreducible competing goods.
Meaning that there's multiple pathways to get to somewhere.
No. That
No.
means, for example, that you have two moral systems that are both good, so justice and mercy.
And there's multiple ways to use them to get to the thing we're trying to get to?
Nope.
No.
In this case, they're competing against one another. So in the case, for example, of somebody who's cheated on his wife, there's morals of justice that we would want to uphold, but there's also maybe morals of mercy or union of family. And so to make a decision, there isn't an obvious correct answer between justice or mercy. Usually we have to do some type of balance between the two.
Or we could do
things.
no type of balance and utilize one in order to get to the same objective as the other.
What's the objective
So,
here?
for instance, if we wanted to like prosecute a guy for a crime, we could say we're only going to prosecute him on this crime based on justice. That could be one value set which we adhere to, right?
Yeah, sure.
We could also appeal to something else like dignity. I don't know. Let's just say we put that up and
Sure.
say that's what we're going to use instead. Well, the justice people and the dignity people, right? Neither one of them are wrong, and they're both going towards the same goal, which is execution of guy just, or execution of guy good, or execution of guy fine.
Well, I guess if you want to make this like pluralist, I guess if you're a
Because it is.
Are
It's
you a
pluralism.
virtue ethicist?
Yes, of course.
You're a virtue ethicist.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to basically utilize and.
Well, I'm
see
a
how-
Christian ethicist, but virtue ethics is involved, yes.
Okay, gotcha. So in the case of why are we here? Yes, we were
Because
talking.
we're talking about systems. How is
Systems.
the United States something other than just a system? You said in and of itself, if we change the First Amendment, that would
So
not be immoral.
you don't think
it would
America
be
is
amoral.
Let each other
anything-
finish, please.
So you don't think America is anything but its system. There's nothing else that makes America unique that you can point to and say that's America.
Under the liberal view, no.
Under your view, I'm asking your view.
Well, under my view, I think that there was once upon a time a powerful idealism which was founded around Christian ethics that was foundational to America, which is now basically destroyed by
Foundational
modern
as in
liberalism.
founding fathers, or foundational in what way?
It was foundational to the moral character of the people who lived here.
So then why did they write it out in the federal papers?
Right? What out?
The church from statecraft.
They didn't.
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't. They
Yep.
separated. They separated in the First Amendment only that the federal government couldn't pass a religion on the people, but under the 10th Amendment, states could still maintain their religions.
And then most states came to agree that actually the federal precept was better, right?
No.
Yeah,
No. What happened actually was a lot of states were looking at moving back towards that, which is why this whole idea of the 14th Amendment being reinterpreted the way that it was to say that states couldn't do that happened.
I feel like we have a very different understanding of suffrage.
I'm not that's not suffrage. That's the 19th Amendment.
14th Amendment?
Yeah, the 14th Amendment, I think, is citizenship. It's about birthright
Right,
citizenship.
you're right. It's about birthright citizenship. Yeah,
The
you're
14th
correct.
Amendment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 14th Amendment prohibits states from infringing on religious freedom by applying the First Amendment to them through the due process clause.
Read the 14th. Read it.
Read it.
I just did, but hold on. Wait, there's
I want you to read it in a way that
sections-
goes to his argument.
Hold on.
I just
If
want
that's
him to read the
possible.
amendment, but I think that that's the case.
Yep.
Besides, even if it wasn't, it's not dunk for you. You didn't remember.
But wait, it is. So the idea of remembering isn't what matters in a conversation of like which idea is more true, right?
He's so sassy.
Yeah, hang on.
So it's not about me
Let him
getting it
read
done.
the amendment.
I don't know why you said that. Aren't we trying to talk about ideas here?
Yeah.
So whether I remembered or not, like poo-poo for me, I should have remembered 14th Amendment. But if the 14th Amendment says what I'm suggesting, that's point to my ideas, not me
There's different
getting away.
clauses.
Yeah.
Should I read all the clauses?
Yes.
Okay. One, citizenship clause.
Yes, there we go.
It declares that anyone born or naturalized in the United States is a U.S. citizen, including formerly enslaved people.
Yep.
Overturned the Dred Scott versus Sanford decision. Number 2, due process clause. It says states cannot deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
So I was right.
This protects individuals from unfair state government actions. Clause 3.
He's like, hold on. I know I'm right on this one.
The Equal Protection Clause. It requires states to provide equal protection of the laws to all people. This clause became the foundation for many civil rights decisions,
Right.
including Roe v. Wade, Brown versus Board of Education, Obergefell versus Hodges.
So these were all
Sorry,
interpretations of the amendment. There's nothing in there about religion.
You're right, but you said that was the 14th Amendment was saying that states could have their own unique religion.
Marlo says, in my opinion, before he was saying in the amoral worldview, the Declaration is nothing but a piece of paper because rights are given by a creator. Yeah, exactly. I think that is what he's saying. You're totally right.
But in fact,
No, that's the
it's not-
10th Amendment.
Wait, why were you
think-
citing the 14th Amendment?
Because
then?
I was telling you that most of the reason states wanted to move back to the idea of religiosity. It was through the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which had nothing at all to do with religion, had to do with birthright citizenship.
And due process.
They focused on that, and here's how they did it. What they were saying was, basically, states aren't going to be able to tell anybody who is or isn't a citizen. Okay, they're not going to be able to do that anymore, and it needs to be uniform. So what happened is the Supreme Court began to rule that, since it has to be uniform, we'll apply the First Amendment there too. This is way, way, way late in the game, though. Okay. Early Constitution, remember at this time, your founders are all dead, right? All these people are dead. They didn't want anything to do with that. They wanted the states to be able to make those prospective decisions themselves, which they were doing.
Sure. So there was a compromise, particularly the compromise was because they needed to unite the colonies, but a lot of the colonies had a lot of different predilections about how to run statecraft, right? And so one of the reasons why they wrote out separation of church and state at a federal level, but allowed states to maintain it, is because they wanted states to still join. It was very important to them, particularly since the revolution was about to happen, that they had the states
Yeah, none of that's in
unified under one
dispute.
another. Well, again, so the 14th Amendment none of that proved that you were right.
Yes,
at
it
all.
did. 100% did.
That has nothing to do with religion.
That was my point, not yours. That was my point.
I never said the 14th Amendment had anything to do with religion.
You did.
I
You
know,
said
I said the
yes,
First
you did.
Amendment. I have it written. I've only
And I said
the
no,
First
it was
Amendment.
citizenship. And you were like, no. Oh, wait, it is citizenship. And then Brian, he did a quick Google search. And what he was reading was an interpretation of it. When he read the actual amendment, no, I was correct.
I've never denied that it was about citizenship. I said, what does the 14th Amendment have to do with
You
religion?
said read it so that it favors Andrew. But it did favor me because I was right.
Well, he started reading it and had nothing to do with religion. It had everything to do with like equal liberties.
No, it
Like,
was the opposite. He was saying first that, hey, this was about religion when it wasn't.
no, he was. What? No, he was not.
Yes, what was the first thing you read, Brian?
Okay.
It was the citizenship clause. There's the due process clause.
No,
You want me to
before
read?
that. The first thing that you read.
Oh,
No,
the
yeah,
first
he did.
one.
He did say that.
Before I looked it up
Yep.
again. Oh, that the 14th Amendment prohibits states from infringing on religious freedom by applying.
Thank you.
the
Infringing
first-
on religious
by-
freedom.
Thank you. He was
can-
saying that the 14th Amendment was about religion. I said, no, it's not. That was
No.
literally about
Andrew?
citizenship.
Okay.
I can look stuff up for you too.
I appreciate
It's
that.
fucking crazy.
Wait, nothing crazy's happened here.
Yes, it has.
So would you agree that in this conversation, I brought up the First Amendment around religion? You have brought up the 10th and 14th to justify why actually the states were given power to decide their own religion.
No, just the 10th. The 14th was how it
So
was
why'd you bring up the
reinterpreted to
14th?
get away from the idea that states could have their own religion.
Okay, gotcha. I see. So can we read the 10th?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. One moment.
He seems so
All right,
irritated.
10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it.
I feel like he used to have a little more fun. I feel like he's getting a little burnt out.
Respectively, or to the people.
Which is why, post-foundation...
Marlo says, in typical Wilson style, he used their worldview against them by seceding a point or by ceding a point he doesn't believe in for the sake of argument. Facts. The anti-Bill Gates. Facts.
State power. So none of that is states establishing a religion.
Yeah, no,
this is just saying the federal government respects the state's right to make certain decisions. Like in suffrage,
that's exactly
the
what he did.
Reserved the right to decide who is people, right?
How many states maintained a state religion post-constitutional ratification?
I believe all of them did initially.
Then what is your argument?
My argument is that the states are not America. The founding fathers
Then what is
are.
America?
Well, the founding fathers are probably a lot closer than what Maryland thought.
That's
right?
not Maryland. The states.
Yeah, well, Maryland,
the states would be all.
Is Maryland a state?
But all states is different than one state.
Sure, and yet all states felt that religion and church should be unified, that they should have a state religion, that there should be a test for religion, and the founding fathers knew that, and despite that, wrote it in explicitly that Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion and prohibit the free exercise thereof.
That way the states could do it, yes.
They were not saying what the states were going to do. They were saying America, which is federal.
Yeah, no, it's also state, which is why we have the 10th Amendment.
America is the federal government.
And state government.
So Maryland is America.
America's a state, or Maryland has a state government.
I didn't say that.
America is a state.
And is that state government allowed to do all the things that the federal government can't do? That it's not in the powers of the federal government via the 10th Amendment?
What matters more to what America
Now, what matters is answering my question. Is Maryland allowed to do whatever Maryland wants to do under the 10th Amendment as long as that's not in the hands of the federal government? As long as those aren't things which are allocated to the federal government, can Maryland do what it wants?
By and large, as long as it's not violating any of the Constitution.
Let each other finish, please.
Great. So if that's the case, then there was actually no reason at all why states could not have their own state religions, and they did.
So what do you think is more important for America? What a state did, like Pennsylvania, or what the founding fathers wrote into the founding documentation?
The founding fathers wrote the 10th Amendment into the founding documents.
Yes, to respect the state's ability to make decisions.
Like have a state religion.
Sure, but also multiple things like commerce.
And also state religion.
Sure, but then they also explicitly prohibited at a federal level any involvement
of
a state religion. There's no federal religion. And
that's never been in dispute.
Yep, that has been in dispute because the question here is what's more American?
Yeah.
What Pennsylvania did in like the
That's
1700s.
Not the question. The question is whether Christian nationalism is un-American.
That's my question to you. What matters more for America? The American ethos, understanding America as a country, what Pennsylvania did at the founding of America, or what the American founding fathers wrote.
Both are important.
Yeah, exactly.
Which matters more?
Both is the answer.
One of them matter more than the other.
They're equally valid. Equally matter.
The system wouldn't work without the validity of both state and federal government.
That's not what we're saying. You're saying that the Pennsylvania policies are equally as
it's like saying what matters more, the individual or the nation. It's like you need both.
Valid as
sure.
the federal
Under the 10th Amendment, yes.
No. No. Hold on. You're equivocating again.
How?
You're being naughty because you're pretending
you're being
like
naughty.
What we're talking about is now statecraft. That Pennsylvania policy was valid under the Constitution, but that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm asking you about the American idea.
Okay.
The idea of America.
The system.
What matters more to the history and understanding of America as a nation?
Both.
Which matters more?
That's
yes. You're saying they're equal.
When you say
Pennsylvania matters just as much as the founding fathers,
more or less,
which is fine. It's just absurd.
Absent, how is it absurd? The system doesn't work unless you have the state governments. It doesn't work.
That's not what anyone's saying. Nobody here is denying that.
So how could it be more important what the founders did when it was intricate that the states had the rights?
To America as an idea, I think what the founding fathers write kind of matters, like the most. Yeah.
Why?
Because they're founding the federal government. They're founding
based on a compromise with the states.
Yeah, but they're founding a nation.
Based on the states.
But the nation is not Pennsylvania. The nation is America.
The nation is a collection of states.
So why is it the case that if all the states had all these religious practice and all these religious law, why didn't the federal government, if they wanted to unify them, why didn't they just write in, that America is a Christian nation? Why didn't they do that?
Because
there's too many different denominations. That's a really stupid question.
Had what was called pan-Protestantism. Each one of these states had different religious organizations in them. And some of them wanted to be this type of Protestant, some wanted to be Catholic, some wanted to be Quakers. So they gave them the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment said that they could do that shit. They could be a Protestant state.
Why
they
not
could
just
be a
say they have to be
Catholic
Christian?
state.
Why not just say at a federal level that they can just be the Christian?
Because the states demanded that the federal government not step in to tell them what their state religion had to be.
That's not true. Actually,
That was the compromise.
No, so when
yes,
the first,
yes,
no,
it was.
So
yeah.
no. Hold on. The
Okay.
compromise here is that states are allowed to make certain rules of law within state that don't that are not within the federal purview. That is the compromise, right?
No.
Yes.
That's one compromise.
Okay. Okay. I don't know why you're interjecting there at all. Thank
Because
you
it
for the
matters.
clarification. This is like being like, there's 3 ways of feminism, and I'm like, there's 4, and you're like, 3's within 4. It's like, okay.
No,
thank
it's
you.
nothing like that.
It's
It's like saying
identical to
this. It's like saying the states, the reason that this compromise happened in the First Amendment is because a Catholic state didn't want the federal government to tell them they had to be a Protestant state.
So why didn't they
But
just have
they did
Christian?
want the federal government to say that they could have a Catholic state, and they did under the 10th Amendment.
So why is it the case that within like the first federal address, all of the states were extremely upset because they mentioned nothing about God? There was no establishment of America as a nation of God. There are ways, for example, that they probably could have compromised between all of the religions so that it wasn't saying a Catholic leader, but just saying a Christian leader, right? They could have done that, but they didn't do that explicitly
That's
to
because
the
they-
upset,
yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
to the upset of the religious leaders, to the
That's
upset
true.
of some of the founding fathers.
It's because
So why did they do
because
that?
Protestants didn't consider Catholics to be Christians. That's why.
That's not why.
It is why.
No, the TJ writes about this. The reason why, right, and you have this in the Federalist Papers, the reason why is because they were breaching away from a king who was also a spiritual leader, right, in the UK, and they had a huge issue with it. They viewed this blend of church and state, especially at a federal level, as a problem. In fact, I suspect if you go into it, a lot of the founding fathers thought that all the states shouldn't have a state level religion. They just weren't going to comment on that because they needed to unify the countries.
Incorrect.
And over time,
There was
the
a
colonies
couple-
adopted the exact same
Yeah,
framework
there was
that the
a
founding
couple
fathers
of
had.
them
If you
that
can,
didn't
just
want
try
to.
to let each other
So
finish.
first of all, there was a couple of them who didn't want to. That's true. But the thing is like
Well, they all agreed to it.
the entirety of the federal government. Well, I'm talking about there was a couple of founders who didn't want states to have a religion. That's what I'm specifically
You're talking about the
referencing.
deists.
Not just the deists. There was others who weren't deists, but by and large, most of them were fine with the compromise.
So a majority of the founding fathers-
Is it my turn now? So here's what actually happened, because since you have revisionist history that I don't know where you came up with.
Okay.
You couldn't say in the First Amendment that this is to be a Christian nation specifically, unless you gave a specific denomination, because denominations did not recognize other ones as being Christian. So what they did instead was they said, look, Congress is not going to make an establishment of a religion, period. We're going to leave that to the states. And then they put in the 10th Amendment. And that's exactly what the states did. They put in their own religions.
Well, there you have it, gang. That wasn't even really much of a debate. That really felt a little bit more like kind of a history lesson from Andrew Wilson. So there you have it. What do you guys think? Do you think America should be a Christian nationalist state, or do you think that it should be left up to the individual states? I tend to be more of a states guy myself overall on most issues. But yeah, there you have it. Leave your thoughts in the comments, like, subscribe.